Franchise Film Review Fridays.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of Franchise Film Review Friday, and today I have with me my buddy Brandon again. If you saw any of my videos from the Halloween franchise series set, you know he appeared with me on Return of the Living Dead. If you haven't seen that one, I'll post a link to that in the description down below. And today we are going to be reviewing the Highlander movie franchise. But before we start on that, is there any updates you'd like to tell us about your book series?
Book series. Anybody out there who saw the video about the little advertisement about my book? I have sold several copies. It looks like on Amazon since then. So if anybody's out there in the YouTube world, thank you. If anybody out there purchased one, and just tell anybody about it. Once again, it's the Knights of Juzani, the Emerald of the Black Cave. Perfect for young readers. Excellent for young readers. In fact, most people between say like 9 and 15, that's the perfect age demographic. So, and with Christmas coming up, it'd be a great gift.
Now, you said this is going to be a trilogy of books, right?
It's a trilogy.
How's
yes.
the second one coming along?
Second one is basically the rough, you could say, is done. I'm just I gotta go back, and I'm probably gonna do that here pretty soon. Start going back through and doing a little bit more self-editing
Cool.
before I start jumping into the whole publication process again. So that's an update on the thing as a whole, and I look forward to releasing more books and seeing how it goes.
And as time goes on, I mean, you seem to enjoy doing this. I enjoy having you do this.
Oh yeah.
With me. So as time goes on, he's going to be appearing in more videos with me, and we'll make sure to keep you guys updated on the status of the second and third books as it happens.
Oh yeah.
But if you are ready, without further ado, let's get into Highlander.
Indeed.
There can be only one.
The first one.
To me, by far the best overall from start to finish. Story is excellent. The action sequences are really good. Slightly dated by today's standards, but actually slightly, because I've recently got and watched. Maybe I should have told you, but I didn't. I didn't think about the 30th anniversary edition.
Nice.
It was redone in 4K and released on Blu-ray.
Wow. That looks awesome.
Outstandingly sharp picture, and matter of fact, not to knock the movie, but it's so sharp you can actually see a stunt double or two. You can actually tell Connor McLeod's stunt double.
Wow.
Christopher Lambert, who plays Connor McLeod, you can actually see in one shot what looks to be a stunt double. And that's how good the picture quality is, and fantastic.
So, when they show the quickening, especially the final one, how much better does that look from like the original release to this version of it? Or does it look much different?
The Highlander 30th anniversary?
Yeah.
Oh god, yeah, it's really good.
Cool.
It's really good.
For me, yeah, I would have to say if Highlander, the original movie, is not my favorite, it ranks really high up there. I especially liked Sean Connery's character in that one.
Yes, me too.
He did a great job as Connor's mentor and whatnot.
Ramirez.
Yeah.
Yes, very, very. I love the Sean Connery being an iconic actor anyway.
Yeah. Actually, that's my all-time favorite Sean Connery movie is Highlander.
Yeah, probably pretty close to mine
Yeah.
too. I mean, there's a few of his James Bonds I like, but
to me he was the only Bond. I didn't get into any other Bond movies after him.
Well, speaking of the Bonds, that might be another reviews we might do because there's a few, but not to get into that too much. Yeah,
we have to break that into like 3 or 4 videos.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah. But Ramirez was an outstanding mentor. A little different than your typical mentors because he's real. I kind of like the flashiness of Ramirez.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I like the way he brings himself. He's not afraid to show how flashy and flamboyant he can in his dress and everything. The way his clothes and everything look.
I think that's why Connor kept calling him a Spanish
peacock. Yeah, he kept calling him a Spanish peacock because he just looked just over the top, you know. But I kind of like that, you know, about the character. And The way he explained the rules of the game,
Yeah.
and the quickenings and things like that was really good.
I think another thing I liked about Ramirez, as far as the mentor role goes, is he didn't coddle Connor.
No, he didn't really coddle him. No.
He pushed him to the limit and
Yeah.
further. He made him realize this is a life and death situation you're involved in, and it's not just his life and death; it's the whole of humanity.
Yeah. And I think another reason why he may not have coddled him, like others might, is because Connor was so
Stubborn.
That's it. Well, that's one word. That's one way. He's Connor is. We'll get into Duncan MacLeod later.
Yeah.
Connor's attitude and outlook is so. What's the word? Solid.
Yeah.
Almost unbending.
Yeah.
So to get somebody like that, you have to have a iron kind of thing,
because he's so set in his ways.
He's so set in his ways, and he probably had an obviously hardened outlook on life by being banished from the Clan MacLeod. So
it probably made him hard to trust and and let people. Yeah, you're right on that one.
Yep. So,
but the fight sequences, the sword play and whatnot. I mean, that was so awesome.
Yeah, the sword play in the movie, even going back and watching the 30th anniversary, and kind of regathering that Highlander fanboy kind of flame for it, and the sword fighting is outstanding. You see, in the movie, you'll see 4 primarily different kinds of sword fighting, which I liked.
Yeah.
Because in the movie, as of you can say there's 2 Highlander universes. I guess we can kind of throw that out there because I used to be confused about this. The first movie set in the way it is Highlander Universe #1.
Yeah.
And it kind of carries on into the second movie, but we'll get in that later. I
think it kind of breaks off and ventures into its own universe with the introduction of Duncan.
Yeah,
but they kind of tie in together also.
They try to tie it in a little bit with when Duncan comes along later in the Highlander series, and which we'll cover some of that. But the 4 styles of sword fighting that we notice in the opening sequence, we see Connor. I can't think of the other guy's name right off the bat. But he fights what looks to be an old European, maybe Frenchman or Englishman, maybe. He has it's like a rapier broadsword.
Yeah.
And he's fighting in a style that would have been reminiscent of what you would have saw in the Musketeers fight. Primarily a one-handed style. Whereas Connor is using a katana sword, which is reminiscent of the Japanese samurai, which is a very strong and fast style. So we see
and that's actually how he was primarily trained, in the Japanese double hand style.
The double hand style. So, and we see the contrasting styles mixed throughout this movie, and we see later an old friend of Connor's, an immortal who's introduced for just a short period of time, also engaging in another kind of style. He's engaging in what seemed to be more of a Middle Eastern one-handed broadsword style.
Yeah.
Which
like you'd see from like the Turkish.
Yeah, the Turkish. Yeah, people of that sort. The blade looked like it was kind of curved, broad,
almost like a scimitar.
Yeah, a scimitar, and he's engaging with the villain of this movie, known as the Kurgan, who personally has to rank. There's a few other Highlander villains I really like.
Yeah.
And but I think I picked the Kurgan as my favorite.
Yeah, he seemed to be the most brutal of all of them.
Well, he's the most. I think he's the most brutal, the most savage, but you kind of can't help but laugh at some of the things he does because it's just crazy. But his style is he uses what would obviously be a European medieval broadsword kind. It's
almost like that old barbarian style.
Yeah, old barbarian style. But his control of his blade, he's so inept with his blade. He's at one time when in the modern era, which at the time of the movie's time is 1985.
Yeah.
And so in the mid 1980s, in the present day of the movie, he's shown in his hotel room spinning the sword around his arms. He's so in tune with his weapon. So and he can fight with it one-handed or two-handed.
Which I find the one-handed fighting to be astounding, because I think Yancey Butler said that sword weighed anywhere from like 40 to 50 pounds. He said it was real heavy.
Oh, I imagine it was.
Unlike Connor's katana, which I've owned replicas of it, and that thing weighs 10 pounds max.
Yeah.
It's real light and agile to use.
Yeah, it's not a real... The thing about the katana is that you can fight one-handed or two-handed with it, and you can... It's got the strength of a broadsword, but almost the weight of a rapier.
Yeah.
You know, it might be a little bit heavier than a rapier, but you kind of get the gist of that. And I thought the contrasting of sword styles was really good, because you're not seeing samurai fight each other. You're not seeing musketeers fight each other. You know, these are people from different eras in history with all kinds of experiences thrown into the fray, which, you know, I've always loved sword fighting, and it's just a... I don't know. You just get you
get your blood pumping.
You get your blood pumping. You get your rocks off. You know, stuff like that on that kind of stuff. So, what's some other good things that you like about the movie?
It was made on such a low budget, but I feel that even the acting in it is really well done. You don't see even for something that was kind of filmed on such a low budget. The acting is really well done. You don't see a lot. You don't see hardly any overacting or, you know, bland delivering of the lines. The action sequences are off the wall. And even for 1985, the special effects, when you know, the quickening scenes and that kind of stuff.
Quickening scenes, yeah.
You know, even for 85, that's still really good.
Yes,
good
it
work.
is. Yeah.
Russell McKay, who directed this, he did a fantastic job on this movie.
Yeah. And, you know, the appeal of the Highlander series has always been what you had talked about, you know, the mystique, that fantasy element of the movie, you know, and where did these people come from? Why are they fighting exactly? What happens when they get killed? You know, just a very interesting movie that started really a cult following. Yeah. So,
and with that being said, since you mentioned that, we're going to go ahead and go into part 2.
Okay.
There can be only one.
Because it's on such a high movie from 1 to part 2, and we're gonna talk about the original and the Renegade version. It fell so bad when it came to part 2.
There's just absolutely no. How can you go so high and yet fall so low? You know, Highlander 2, the quickening, the mystique of the immortals and where they come from. You know, part 2 explains it, but just completely throws it. Just like completely, because now they're aliens from another planet now. That was their origin.
Planet Zeiss.
The planet, and it just completely throws it out the wall for me, because it just. I mean, if you were going to start it that way, that would have been a little different.
Yeah.
But you didn't start it that way, you know, and it made you lose your flair for this.
Yeah, you really and truly did. I don't know.
The story was just confusing. Yeah. It's just really confusing, because as we get to part 2, you know, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie, Connor McLeod does win the prize in the first Highlander by killing the Kurgan. So, when we get to part 2, he's had, and he also won his mortality, which means he could finally die and have children and all that stuff.
Which is where part 2 opens up, because it takes place like, what, 50 or so years in the future?
Yeah, it takes place decades later, anywhere between 30
it opens up with Connor as an old man.
Yeah, Connor's now an old man in the Highlander 2, The Quickening, and what he has done is he has somehow created some sort of device that was supposed to keep the...
Yeah, in this one, the ozone layer has been depleted, and he works with this team of scientists to create the shield, which is supposed to keep UV rays off of planet Earth. Because in Highlander 2, spoiler alert, in Highlander you see he develops a relationship with Brenda, who's a police officer. They get married, and in Highlander 2, you find out that she's died due to UV ray exposure from the sun, and then they create this shield, and it's a real jacked up movie. and it's on it. That's about all I say. I mean, and for everything that made the first Highlander good, the second one
they just took everything that made it good. Just we don't want that.
Yeah.
We're gonna do something different. Blah. And you just get this big old pile of crap. It's basically
Even Ramirez couldn't save that movie, and he was in it again.
Yeah, they were able to bring back Ramirez, and like you just said, even the great Sean Connery couldn't even in his role as Ramirez save the movie. Wasn't no way. The movie's gone so far. It's gone so far south.
Yeah.
It's not even savable no more. And I've actually never seen the Renegade version, but you said that it's basically just taking out the Planet Zeiss moments.
Where you were talking about earlier with the first one, the mystique of the Immortals and stuff like that. They tried to explain it in the original Highlander 2, The Quickening, but with the Renegade version, they tried to remove all of the elements of them being like extraterrestrials, and they're just supposed to be things like some sort of time travelers or that kind of crap.
Oh, okay.
That's basically what the Renegade version is. They just took everything about the planet Zeiss out of it, and they kind of made it like they were time travelers. It's a real bad storyline.
Sounds to me like they really never really. They basically
to me, it honestly seems like this is one of those movies where they were on such a high from Highlander. You get into Highlander 2, and they just like rushed production, and it was just bad all the way around.
They've done that with other movies in the past. They'll sit there, they'll get on such a high with a movie, and they'll try to rush a sequel just to sort of capitalize on the moment of the popularity, and they'll just throw together any kind of storyline they can, and then sometimes,
yeah, and that's what they got with this one.
It really stank bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of. I remember the first time I watched Highlander: The Quickening. I was kind of, I loved the first Highlander, and and said, "Oh, let's watch it." It might be kind of good here. Let's see what's going on. And
it goes to
what?
Goes to crap real quick.
Oh yeah, it don't take very long at all
whatsoever.
Like where we get this, and then it just, whoo.
So we go from Highlander 2 to Highlander 3.
There can be only one.
Again, starring Christopher Lambert as Connor McLeod. But what they've done is they've gone back in time, I guess, so to speak. This one takes place, I think, around 93.
Yeah.
And what they've done is they've completely made Highlander 2 not canon. It's just
Highlander.
They've taken it out.
Highlander 2 is kind of sort of like the. It's been given the bastard child. Which it truly rightfully deserves, because it just completely puts a complete crank in the Highlander movies. But like he's saying, the Final Dimension starts trying to bring us back to the glory of Highlander now.
Because with this one, they even changed how Brenda died. Because whereas in Highlander 2 she died from UV exposure, in this one she died in a car wreck in Scotland. So they've completely taken Highlander 2 out of the equation, and like you said, it's the bastard child of the series now. But it kind of does go back to the original Highlander. It kind of has that feel, that vibe. And they really stepped it up to try and make up for the mistake of Highlander 2.
Yeah, they try to, obviously a lot of fans probably were not happy with it.
No.
Which, rightfully so. You've had this excellent movie come out of almost nowhere with this excellent storyline and excellent, vibe. And the 80s was kind of big, if you think about it, with Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer. The 80s kind of brought back the mystique of swords and sorcery and things like that with The Princess Bride. And, just different movies that, started kind of returning to this sort of medieval, ancient, barbaric kind of, so the Highlander movie just kind of took that feel in another direction, and they capitalized and had a super good following, and then the second one comes along, really cranks it out, and then the third one tries to bring us back to the feeling of the first one.
And the way the third one opens is, it's actually, to me, considered the true sequel to Part 1. Because you see what happens after Ramirez is killed by the Kurgan in the 1500s. His first wife Heather dies, and Connor buries her, and then he just goes traveling. He just goes walking. Now consider at this point in time it's still the 1500s, and he ends up in I think it's Japan.
Japan?
Yeah, he ends up in Japan in the cave of a sorcerer, Nakano, who actually becomes his new mentor. And that I think that they try and use that to explain Connor's fighting style, how he becomes a student of the Japanese katana fighting style. In this one, the villain is played by Mario Van Peebles.
Yeah.
And he does a good job.
Yes, he actually does. Mario Van Peebles.
He does a really good job. I think the storyline is still pretty good. There's no really outrageous story arcs or anything like that. And the final fight scene, it's done pretty well also.
Yeah.
The sword fighting scenes are done well. So I mean, I really don't have many complaints about this one.
One interesting nugget about the third one, though, that kind of always stands out to me is Connor's specific dragon katana is destroyed.
Yeah.
And he goes and he gets it reforged, I believe.
He reforges it.
Yeah, he goes
back to his old homeland, and he finds where he had like blacksmith tools and stuff like that.
And he reforges the dragon katana that was given to him by Ramirez. So that was something that kind of always stood out to me, was the dragon katana has been destroyed, and he goes back and fixes it.
Yeah.
So that was pretty interesting.
And then, I did note there is one sequence in there. If you watched the original Highlander enough, and you watch the Final Dimension enough, you can tell where they took parts from the original quickening that Connor had when he fought the Kurgan, and they placed it into the quickening he has after he beheads Kane, which is Mario Van Peebles' character.
Oh, okay.
So if you go back, you can notice that.
I'll have to check that out myself.
If you watch it close enough, you can notice it.